Welcome, welcome everybody to another Sunday afternoon of When Black Women Gather. My name is Helen Higginbotham. I am the founder of this organization. And today we have speaking with us, I'm going to put her on spotlight, Miss Reverend Vanessa Wilson, who is going to talk to us about cancer, her journey, uh, fighting cancer. How are you today?
I am doing well. How are you?
You look fabulous.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for having me. I
Yeah.
want to first just say thank you to everyone who's here. And I'm going to start immediately by going through a PowerPoint presentation. And in the presentation, there's some material I just want to cover. And then if we could have a conversation, that would be good. Okay. So,
Let me give a
Helen,
little introduction. So
okay.
Reverend Wilson was here with us. Oh my God, was it 2 years ago?
About 2 years. Yeah.
And yeah, oh man, where does the time go? And she talked to us about women, the role of women in the Bible and the church, and it was just really a fascinating conversation from a Black female's perspective. And today she's going to talk to us about breast cancer is not pink. So I know how I interpreted that, so we can talk about that in a minute. But just so you know, she and I are both from New Jersey. And we actually met through this platform, didn't we, Vanessa?
We met when before you were on the platform. We met at Mercer County College through Linda when you first
Yes.
started. Remember you had a session
Yes.
at Mercer?
Yes, I
That was
do.
well,
I do.
pre-COVID, right?
Wow. Yeah, when we were meeting in person. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. But
So
for
that
those
was
of
a
you who are in
while
the
ago.
Willingboro area, she is lead pastor of the Church of Good Shepherd in Willingboro. I encourage you that you get out and visit her church if you can. She has served as senior pastor at the United Methodist Church since 2013, where she is currently an ordained elder. A second career pastor, she is a C-suite executive in higher education, healthcare, and nonprofit organizations. She is the founder and president of Sikona Incorporation, an organization working with optimal healthcare and cancer awareness, prevention, treatment, and survivorship through integrative health solutions. Reverend Wilson has presented about health, spirituality, and organizational health for various institutions, including Harvard Medical School, Johns Hopkins University, University of Pennsylvania, and the Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference. She serves on the New Jersey Cancer Coalition and has participated in the National Cancer Institute Health Disparities Research Projects, which I want to hear more about because I don't know that a lot of Black folks are taking up advantage of those opportunities. Reverend Wilson holds a bachelor's degree from Rutgers University and a JD from Rutgers School of Law, an MBA from Rutgers Business School. All around, she's Rutgers, a Master of Divinity and a Master of Sacred Theology from Drew University Theological School. While in I don't know what that is, MDIV, what is that? Masters in Divinity
Yes.
program. She was the recipient of multiple awards, prizes, and scholarships, including the Georgia Haxon Scholarship. Currently, she's completing a PhD. Come on, girl, you got to finish it in medical and health humanities, examining epistemic justice and circles of care as gateways to achieving optimal health for the cast person school at Drew. Other interests include transgenerational trauma, adverse childhood experiences, and the intersection of race, gender, religion, law, and medicine. In her spare time, which I don't know where she finds it, she enjoys entertaining, creating tablescapes, quilting, dancing, traveling, laughing with friends and family. And she is blessed to be the parent of two wonderful adult sons who, if you're on Facebook with her, you know that she talks about them and spends time with them a lot. So I just know her as a good friend and somebody I can call up whenever, and she's always there to listen. So I thank you for that. And I want us to hear about your journey today and why you say breast cancer is not pink. So on that note, I'm going to step aside, let you do your thing, and you take it from here. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Helen, for inviting me. And thank you for being my friend, right? One of the things that I'm going to talk about and stress is the importance of community, when you have cancer, but the importance of community just to be human. So I thank you, Helen, for your dedication and your commitment to creating this online community. And it is wonderful and it's amazing when I jump on and I see people that I've met all along the way. And I was surprised to see Karen here and I see Connie and Charlotte, and I don't know who else I'll see, but right now that's the only people I can see. But I
Hi,
want
Vanessa.
Hi. So I just kind of want to walk through on with my PowerPoint and then leave some time for conversation. Um, I do a lot of formal presentations. I don't want this to be as formal, but the piece that I do want to be pretty formal is the timeline of my journey. So that's why we're going to walk through with the PowerPoint. Okay, so I hope that's okay with everyone. Okay, so when we say breast cancer is not pink, it's such a controversial thing to say, but I use that as the title because I really want to capture people's attention, and we'll talk a little bit more about pink and what that means and why I've selected that as we move forward in the presentation. Just to, this is my journey. It's um, not it's educational, informational, it's not medical knowledge, not medical information, not legal information. If you have any challenges, any problems, if you need anything, you need to see a licensed physician in your area. But this is my journey, and I'm going to give you some stuff that's evidence-based as well. But again, there's my general disclaimer. I'm a faith person, so you'll hear a lot of faith through that. I'm a pastor, but even before I was a pastor, I'm a person of faith. So I'll talk a little bit about the spirituality as well. So I'll just start very briefly before I go more into pink. And I love pink. So I'm a pink person. I love pink before I had cancer. I'm a pink and purple girly girl. Always loved it. But sometimes with the pink, we forget that cancer is a war and it is very difficult. It is very challenging. I honor every woman, every man, every person who puts on a pink ribbon, a pink t-shirt, a pink baseball cap. I honor you and I honor your commitment to fighting this war. But I want to start out with this quote so that we understand that I'm not the only one who thinks it's a war. So this is from a book called Health's Role and the Future of Cancer Survivorship, and it's from the American Journal of Preventative Medicine. It says, in the war on cancer, cancer survivors are often wounded warriors with a long-term sequel needing to be managed together with other chronic conditions such as hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and diabetes. In addition, cancer survivors may be at risk for developing other primary cancers because of the shared etiological risk factors or the consequences of radiation therapy or chemotherapy. The complex needs of the continually growing number of cancer survivors cannot be fully met by the current healthcare system. And so that was in 2015 that was written. And now 10 years later in 2025, with what we see going on in healthcare and in this country, we understand that the war has intensified. And clearly, with everything that's going on, we need more resources and we need more knowledgeable people fighting together for this war if we want people to live. So I want to take a moment just to honor and to remember, because it's very important, those people that we've lost to breast cancer or any other type of cancer, and to honor those who are still surviving and fighting. So just let's take that moment. Thank you very much. So during our time together, I'm going to tell you my story and I'm going to tell you the lessons that I learned from cancer. And I learned a lot, but I'm going to capsulize them in release, relax, refocus, and research. And I think of all of the lessons I learned, the most important being to do the research and to relax. So this is my story, and I'm just going to walk you through it. I'm going to walk you through chronologically. I was diagnosed in 2018. So these slides are from 2019 when I had to put together my journey so that I would know what I went through. 2018, my life was grand. I had just graduated from school. I'm a mom. Helen heard you talk about my kids. I love my sons, right? I thought I would never have children. I have two sons. They're great. Everything was grand. We do a lot of things together. We have a lot of fun. So I was a mom. I'm a second career pastor, as you heard earlier. I was doing legislative advocacy. I was very involved. I'm United Methodist and my conference, working with a religion and race. I'm the chairperson. I had been ordained in another church as well. I was doing consulting and traveling and just having a blast in school. As I said, I had just graduated. I graduated from Drew, excuse me, with a master's in divinity, and I started another degree at Drew. I loved being in school, and I was getting a master's in sacred theology, and I really wanted to focus on Hebrew. I wanted to understand the language. For me, it's very important that we understand original languages. There's a quote that says, to interpret is to lie, right? So whenever we're relying on someone else's interpretation, we really don't understand the context. So I'm big on learning languages. So at that time, I pastored a small church in Pemberton, New Jersey. And in that church, there was a high incidence of cancer. Real tiny church, almost everyone in the church had cancer. And I started doing a lot of research about cancer at that point because I wondered why so many people had cancer. I already felt some sort of way about cancer because my mom passed away from pancreatic cancer, my dad lung cancer, and I had two cousins breast cancer. So I already had an opinion, but then when I saw this cluster, I started doing the research and I started planning to do a nonprofit, which became Sakona, and Look Up and Live and Shalom Health, all of these things I wanted to do. And I wanted to have a project called Africana Health Awareness in Action. So these were all plans, and this was 2018. It still was grand, and everything was planned. And when I was doing this research, I want you to remember these are 2018 statistics. And if you follow them up, I'm not going to bring you up with a lot of statistics. The statistics have not changed. Or if it has changed, it's negligible. So in 2018, in New Jersey, when I started looking at racial, ethnic healthcare disparity among Black people, there was the occurrence of the following with healthcare disparities: asthma, cancer deaths. That means we're higher for all of us. Cancer deaths, end-stage renal disease, diabetes deaths, HIV transmission and deaths, homicide, firearm injury deaths, infant mortality, very low birth weight, teen births, obesity among teens, STD incidence and transmission, and TB incidents. So that was us. And there are major gaps there. And there still are major gaps. And that was 2018. Remember, this is where my life was in 2018. And the two areas that I did the most work in was maternal and child health and cancer, because I really wanted to learn about those areas. I had an interest. At that time, New Jersey was seventh in the nation with incidence of cancer, seventh in the nation, and Burlington County was one of the cluster counties with the highest death rate from cancer, except for Salem County, which at that time had the highest death rate. Now, today, 2025, New Jersey is eighth in cancer incidence, right? But Burlington County is still one of the cluster counties. And I'm concerned about Burlington because I pastor in Burlington and my church is at even back then before I lived in Burlington, we're in Burlington. So I look at Burlington. And so we see that we're in a challenging place. For those of you who live in New Jersey is very challenging when it comes to cancer. Okay. And it's the same with maternal and child health care. And I'm not going to go through that today because we want to focus on cancer. But it's a problem still in New Jersey. And New Jersey has made some strides with that, but we're still in a challenging place. And it is so critical for all of us to get involved in terms of legislative action, knowing the statistics, getting involved in our community, and educating people about what's going on. And now, more than ever before, we all have to fight. You know, and so, and again, I love pink. Pink is a happy color. I'm a happy person. I want to be happy, and I understand the hope that pink gives us. But we always need to be reminded that this is a fight for our lives. So I'm doing all this great stuff. I'm having fun. You know, life is grand. And then I came to a sudden stop. And that sudden stop was breast cancer. And I'm going to walk you through this breast cancer journey. And I really just give God the glory for this because the only reason I got a mammogram at that point is because I was trying to be ordained in the United Methodist Church, which now I am ordained. But in our church, they give you a battery of exams. And I said, since I'm in and out doing all of these tests, let me now get another mammogram because I always got mammograms. So I said, let me get another one. So now I'm going to go through this chronologically so we could walk together. So I go in October 23rd, routine mammogram, and I had no symptoms. I had recently had a full breast examination by a physician. I had a mammogram the year before. I think I'm great. I actually called one of my professors. I said, I'm going to be late for class. I'll be there on time. Okay. When I was there, they said we need to do some additional tests. The same day they held me there, and it was through God's grace that I ended up in Morristown Hospital because I lived on Drew's campus at the time, or I had an apartment there. I didn't live there yet. I had an apartment there, and God's grace that I went to Morristown and I had the mammogram, and they held me and they said, we need to do more. And that frightened me a little bit because it's like, what more do you need to do? Again, no symptoms, nothing, feeling fine, no medical problems. So they said it, they said you need to come in immediately. And they wanted me to come right back. Well, my birthday is October 31st. And I said, I don't want any bad news in October. So let's wait. And so I went in for a biopsy on November 2nd. And at that time, I was doing consulting, I was doing training, and my friend said, you need to stop and wait. And I said, no, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to wait. And I was just, flying all over the place doing whatever it is that I do. Well, on November 8th, they called me and they said the biopsies were positive and that I had cancerous cells, right breast, and the lymph nodes. They knew immediately. So I went through a battery of tests. Now we move rapidly. We go extremely fast. I went through a battery of tests from November to December, multiple test examination, genetic testing, PET scans, ultrasounds, etc. And I was diagnosed with an estrogen receptor positive breast cancer. And when I got the call, I was actually in South Carolina training clergy. I got this call and I was just a little devastated because I did not expect to have cancer, right? I did not expect that. I eat well, I exercise, I was overweight. So I didn't know at the time that being overweight would lead to cancer or can lead to cancer. Does not always. So, but I was doing everything I knew to do, and I don't smoke, I don't drink. I was doing everything to live healthy because both of my parents had cancer. When I got the call, and I have a picture here of my good friend Jackie Hurston, who's now going on to be with the Lord. I was with Jackie and we had this conversation, and she was so concerned about me because of what they said. It was already in the lymph nodes. And I always want to honor her because she's the first person I told, and we sat and we cried together, we laughed together, and we said we were going to go on. The next day, I went in to speak to the clergy that I was working in. It was, hundreds of people we were training. I had a small team, and it was really interesting because I didn't expect this. Um, when I told them about the call, I said, look, I'm telling you this because I don't know where my mind will be the next day. I don't know where my head will be. So if I don't show up, I want you to make sure you do the training. This is very important. And I was with the AME Church, Seventh Episcopal District in Florence, South Carolina, and they started to pray for me. And this is really important because this really starts to form the crux for me to look at integrative health and the importance of both spirituality and good medical health. And they prayed for me until literally the room filled with smoke. I had never experienced anything like that. I really like church. I spent a lot of time in church, and it was literally a transformative prayer. And from that time to now, I really have had not a concern about cancer. Now, I've had a lot of other concerns, but not about cancer because it was a release. And I could feel past pain. And I'll talk about that past pain being released. And also, in terms of the spirituality and health, when I went to the doctor, I had my Hebrew book. I was trying to learn Hebrew. Hebrew is very hard. And I met a woman who was a nurse who was kind of fascinated with me learning Hebrew. She was Jewish. We became friendly. When I got the call from the hospital, she was the person who called me. And she said, I remember you. And she said, do you have a breast surgeon? No, I mean, who walks around with a breast surgeon, right? And I was healthy. There was nothing wrong with me. I had no high blood pressure, nothing. And she actually said, okay, I'll make a referral. And so when I flew back to Newark, my son was waiting for me at the airport, and we went directly to a breast surgeon who is really a top breast surgeon in New Jersey, if not the nation. And that's important for me from the spiritual point of view because only God could have orchestrated me having that good a doctor. So I had the best medical team, and I always salute them. So from January to May, I was in chemotherapy, and it was pretty intense because of the size of the mass that was in my breast. Then I had the mastectomy in June, lymph node dissection, sentinel node biopsy, and they removed 7 lymph nodes, 3 of which were cancerous. The mass, even after being reduced by the chemotherapy, was still the size of a bagel. I went in, and then from August through September, I had radiation therapy, and then September 19th, I rang the gong and I was cancer free. This happened extremely quickly. This was the fastest journey that I had ever been on. And it was good that it was quick. But one of the things, and I'll walk through, I'll tell you some of the lessons. One of the things that I learned in going through this is you want to go as quickly as possible, especially if you're at a stage where I was. However, you also need to make sure at the right time you're getting the right second opinions and you're getting enough information to really make an informed decision. Because when we hear cancer, or most people, I don't know about it, you hear cancer, it's a sudden panic. It is really challenging when you hear that. And sometimes we base our decisions on the fear, right? Because that uh, reptilian brain starts, right? And you're like, panic, cancer, get it out. Or, you know, fight, flight, or freeze, or you just want to do nothing because it's so overwhelming. So my reflections on breast cancer. Cancer is communal, and it's communal in many ways, but it's communal because when one person in the family gets cancer, the family has cancer because we all have to respond. And for me, I understand that my well-being, it impacted all of us. And I had an apartment, like I said, on Drew's campus at the time, but I also had my home in Lawrence. And through this cancer journey, I literally had to give up my home. It's very expensive and it's very draining. But my sons, my family, my friends, the whole Drew community really rallied around me to help me get through this. I had clergy brothers and sisters praying for me. I had a wonderful medical team, and I learned about integrative medicine. And at Morristown at that time, they had a wonderful integrative medicine department. So not only was I doing conventional medicine, but I was doing the integrative medicine. So they had drumming circles, they had art therapy, they had Reiki. So my experience may not be like most people's experience because actually, as I was getting chemotherapy, I actually had someone doing reflexology on my feet to calm me down. And I would have Reiki treatments afterwards. So integrative medicine is so important. And then I said, oh, let me study this. And so as I went through this journey, we all survived. So my church family survived with me. AME 7th District of South Carolina, they survived with me. United Methodist Women. I was writing a book at the time, and I was writing a book on the criminalization, a study guide on the criminalization of Black girls, and looking at them. It was a companion to the book, looking at the Black girls and how we're treated, Black children are treated, and Black women. And the United Methodist Women worked with me and they slowed the pace so that I could actually get that published. I had former clients working with me. So this piece about cancer, when we understand that it is communal and we are in community and we really have to struggle together, that is very important. And when one person survives, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that term means, when one person survives, we all survive. This is important. It's very important that we work together. Again, these reflections. So, one of the things I had to learn was to change the way I think or the way I thought, and I'm still changing. The most traumatic events for me with cancer was meeting the doctors the first time because you don't know what to expect. And my first meeting with the breast surgeon, and she was wonderful. She's a breast cancer survivor. Um, She took a very long time to discuss every facet of what could possibly happen. And as I said, I like pink. I had a pink planner at the time. I pulled it out, and she said, "When this is over, you won't like pink anymore." Well, I still like pink, but I understand that this is war, and pink doesn't always describe war, but it does give people hope. So she talked about personality types with breast cancers. She discussed spirituality. And if you're a spiritual person, it's very important to have a doctor who understands spirituality and that you can have that conversation with. But one of the things that she did discuss is she said a lot of women who have breast cancer are women who are helpers, and they're women who do a lot, and they're women who help other people, and they're nurturers. And she spent a lot of time, and I thought about that, and not necessarily evidence-based, but it was her experience. And the one thing that she said, and I will tell anyone who has cancer or any chronic condition, please allow people to help you. I was not it, I was not able to accept help. I didn't know how, because I'm always the helper. I'm always the strong person. I'm the go-to person in my family. But learning to accept help really helped my healing, and she stressed that. My first meeting with the oncologist was very frightening as well because he immediately, we had a good conversation. He immediately said, we're recommending chemotherapy, and because you're healthy, um we've done everything and you can survive the chemotherapy. Well, I can survive it. And he didn't say it exactly like that, but that's basically what it was. And I said, whoa. I said, no chemotherapy for me. My father had chemotherapy and it killed him. And he said, what year was that? And I said 1979. And he said, I was born in 1979. Medicine has progressed. And so, sometimes we could get stuck in the past. And all I could see when he said chemotherapy was my dad shrinking to 68 pounds. The chemotherapy then killed my father. Lung cancer killed my father. But in my mind, I associated the two. And we talked for a long time. And he said, at the end of the day, it's your choice. You do what you want to do based on how you feel. Listen to your body. And after prayer, I said, I'm going to go with the chemotherapy. And it really took a long time for me to process that this was not not 1979. I had to move from the past. And I think sometimes we get stuck in someone else's experience. That was my dad's experience. He had smoked all of his life and worked in foundries and all other toxic places. That wasn't my experience. I had to move from being stuck. When I first met the plastic surgeon, and thank God for this team because I met the plastic surgeon early on, long before they removed my breast. When I first met the plastic surgeon, that really helped me to understand that we are dust. In my faith tradition, it said, from dust you've come, until dust you'll return. And sometimes we get so attached to our bodies. And that's when I really understood that I am not my body, because he bought an assortment of breast out and he said, pick a breast. And it was like selling a car. You got this breast, you got that. And it was mind blowing to me. He said, so just think about what do you want to be at the end of this process? And it was all the glitz and glam that you would want of, you know, upscale plastic sur and he was an upscale plastic surgeon. But for me, that was very frightening to just know that you could take off a body part and you could put on a body part. And for people of this generation, it's pretty okay because everything now is about plastic surgery. People get new lips, they get new everything. But for me, in my age range, that was very frightening that I could now pick a new body part. And thanks be to God that I was able to pick a new body part when I got to that stage. But in the beginning, it was very frightening. So everything about this process caused me to really, really have to change my mind, change the way I think. And I will always tell people that breast cancer, that experience saved my life. It was my Selah moment. It was when I stopped and said, what is now important in life? Is the house important? Is the car important? What's important? And thank God for my sons. One of them started going to school at Druid, started the year or the semester before I was diagnosed, and the other one actually stopped working and moved into my little apartment. And through the course of chemotherapy, we gave up my house in Lawrence, or our house in Lawrence. So you said, what's important? Is the house important? Or do we live together in this one bedroom apartment so I could be close to the medical help I need and continue in school? And I think those are the decisions that sometimes we don't plan for. I didn't plan to have cancer, you know, um, we don't plan for that. So that's my journey. That's how I got through. And I said I would tell you about release, refocus, relax, and research. So I'm going to just stop for a moment. The share, excuse me, been talking a lot. I'm going to stop the share, and I just want to talk about those things in a conversational way. And I'll give you some facts, and I could come back later with some slides to give you more information. But I just want to discuss that. But relax, release the past, refocus on the present, relax. And for that is like find joy in the journey and research. And for research, I'll definitely come back. But let me just stop this share for a moment. And I went through a lot of information. And once I get through this segment, we can have some questions, but I do want to go back and give you some information. One of the things that cancer forced me to do was really to do a deep self-examination. about what's important, what's not important, as I said, with the house. But it also made me think about, are there toxic thoughts that I'm carrying? And there were toxic thoughts that I was carrying. And I really had to go through that and purge myself of those toxic thoughts because I wanted to be as light as possible because I wanted to be able to go through this journey. And all the evidence, the data, whatever research you do will tell you that if you're holding toxic thoughts, if things make you angry, right? It affects the hormone level in your body, affects cortisol, it affects a lot of things. So much for me is I had to learn to release, just like let it go. It's okay. I had to refocus. And that refocusing was really, really important on where do I want to go and what's important for me. Because once you realize how close you are to death, then you say like, oh, okay, like what do I really want to be when I grow up? And you can move away from just the roteness of life. Because some of us go through life in a very rote manner. We get up, we go to work, we take care of the kids, we feed the grandkids. It's very rote. But what happens when you realize that for years, because they said the cancer had been growing for years, right? That something is growing inside of you that could kill you. And had I not gone at that time, and the timing of God is perfect, had I not gone at that time, I probably would not be here now. Now, with the refocusing and the timing, so why do I say the timing of God is perfect? I told you earlier that I had been getting mammograms. I want to be healthy, right? I want to be alive. I want to be all of those things. In 2018, earlier that year, the law changed in New Jersey, and that law talked about dense breasts. I had never heard that term before, but in spring of 2018, the law changed, and it said that every woman who had dense breasts had to be told about the dense breasts, and they had to get additional screening and the insurance would have to pay for it. That's in New Jersey. Every state has different laws in terms of dense breast and how that's treated. So it was critical at that time that I went later in 2018 than earlier in 2018. And the year before, when I had a mammogram, that law was not in place. And the law that was in place said that it was almost optional or at the doctor's discretion when and what women they would tell they had dense breasts. Well, if you have dense breasts, then you have a higher risk for cancer, and they need to do additional screening. And it was in the additional screening that I found out that I had the cancer. Now, this is important for all women because in every state, it's so important that you research the laws in your state. Now, there's a federal law in terms of dense breasts and what you have to be told, what has to be done, but you need to know the law in your state and you need to know what to ask. Relax. So I'm a pretty like hyped up person. I like to have fun, but I'm never really relaxed. Um, Yeah, pretty much. That's how I had lived my life. I mean, I'm going to school. Well, I'm going to school. I'm raising kids. I'm I'm doing a lot of things. So I never really stopped to really have joy for the journey all along the way. And the cancer really said, am I having fun? No matter what state I am. So I'm a pastor and I'm a Christian, and we say, wherever you are, the apostle says, wherever you are, apostle Paul says, wherever you are, learn to be content, right? I've abased and I've abound. And the reality is that most of us are content or we find joy when we are up, right? That's now normal. But what does it look like to find joy when you're in a bad situation? And so one of the things that I did that was really a little different to find joy in this situation is I had a boob voyage party and it was wonderful. And why did I have a boob voyage party? Because as African people, as African Americans, people who come from Africa, we understand the importance of ritual and we understand the importance of everything having a time. And even though I had cancer and yep, boob voyage, that's it. Um, Even though I had cancer and the breast had to go, that breast had served a purpose in my life. And so we sent it off in a good way. And that also helped me because all of my friends and loved ones, and I think on my website we have pictures of that, but all of my friends and loved ones, we got together and we sang and we ate and we prayed and we said, bye bye, boo, bye bye. And it helped me to release. My children were gone. There's nobody for me to breastfeed. It's okay. It helped me to release and now to refocus on the new me. And it's so important along life that we all release and then start to refocus on the new us. But one of the most critical things that came out of this is the amount of research that I started to do. Because me and God had to have a conversation because I was eating, I was exercising, I was doing everything I know to do. And so I said, why me? Why me? And of course, the question is, why not you, right? But what is it? Because I think there's a reason for everything. And so I started to do a lot of research. And the first thing I did, because I could hear the surgeon talking about pink, I started to research about pink. And I'm going to go back to the slide. We're going to talk a little bit about pink. Actually, before I talk about pink, I want to go back to research and go back to release. So when we talked about releasing the past, I was releasing the things in my conscious memory, right? Things I remember, like I had an attitude with my ex-husband, he didn't pay child support. Those were things that I could remember, right? But the release is so much deeper. When I was going through um, chemo and I was taking so many drugs, like so many drugs, so many drugs, so that I would not vomit. At one point, I just started vomiting. And because I was in a place that they did integrated medicine, I saw the therapist and we did regression therapy where she took me back, not to a past life, but back to my childhood, to a place where I was really, really frightened. And we walked through that. And after I finished that, I released that experience and I didn't vomit again. I don't think maybe I don't, probably haven't vomited since. But it was that still deep down from my childhood, there was something that I was holding. That prompted me to continue to do additional research in a different direction. And one of the things that I learned is that when we have adverse childhood experiences, and many of you know about that ACEs, those adverse childhood experiences can lead to breast cancer and other chronic diseases. So it is so important that we protect our children and make sure that they get the right treatment, the right care when they are experiencing certain things. So, they talk about sexual assault and other things, seeing murders. When I was a child, I lived in Newark during the time of what they label as the riots, but was a time of civil disobedience. And I was going to my aunt's house because she was afraid. And I saw a man shot in his back by the police because he was robbing a liquor store. And I saw a little boy who was also shot in the crossfire. And that picture was on the cover of Life magazine. Back then, they didn't get therapy for children. My mother was so glad she got me home. We were safe. But living through that time of war left a scar on me. And that scar manifested in certain chronic diseases or certain other conditions that I have. So we need to really be conscious, and especially now that our children are exposed to so much social media and so much violence, and we see so much. we need to really wrap our arms around our children because those adverse childhood experiences can manifest in breast cancer. And there's plenty of documentation on that. Yes, you're right. I'm looking at the comments. We still don't get therapy. We still don't do what we need to do. And so in our church, and I'm going to do a little commercial for our church, we work very hard with our health ministry so that we can ensure that people get what they need. And we just got a small grant to do some other things in those areas. But everybody, if you're not in a church, you're in a woman's group, you're in a club, you're in a synagogue, you're in a mosque, you're in something. And if you're not in anything, you need to form something because we all need community and we really need to protect our children. Yes. Okay. So I'm going back and forth. I'm gonna stop looking at the chat, but we need to protect our children. And now we know, and we didn't know before, now we know that it is our responsibility to protect our children, to protect our women, our men, boys, and girls, to protect ourselves. Because no one's going to do it for us but us. I want to just go back to the slide. What time is it? Okay, I'm just going to go back to the slide show for a moment and just talk a little bit um, about pink. And I'm going to just real quickly just mention this. When I was in South Africa, I was in South Africa in 2017. I spent some time there and I learned about a Zulu greeting. And a part of that Zulu greeting, the last part is Sakona, and it says, I am here. And so that's why we named the nonprofit Sakona, because when I was not knowing what I was going to go through the next year, that was so important to know that I am here, that ministry means I am present with you. Community means I am present with you, not that I'm just looking at you, not that it's voyeuristic or I'm imposing my values on you, but that I am here with you. So that's the nonprofit. Um, I'm going to ask you again to donate to Sakona. So just that's just a little break. We'll come back to that, but I do need people to donate to Sakona because so we could continue to do the work that we're doing. We were incorporated in 2020. We work with local congregations and we provide the infrastructure, information, educational resources, organizational support for cancer awareness and treatment prevention. But now we're really focusing on survivorship because we have more and more people surviving cancer. But as you survive cancer, there's a greater likelihood you're going to have more and more chronic illnesses. And unfortunately, the way it's working now within our medical system is once you hit that gong or ring the bell or whatever the tradition is, you're almost dropped from care. So we have to make sure we empower people to survive. Okay, so we work with congregations to build infrastructure and health and wellness ministries. So I'm going to talk about these ribbons. I can't see all of the comments right now because I'm in the chat. I see something else. Talk about these ribbons, right? Because everyone say, why do you say cancer's not pink? Because cancer's not pink. Cancer's war. Okay. I love the fact that we wear the ribbons. I wear a ribbon when I go out to speak because people can't hear me unless you speak their language, right? So we always need to speak the language that people are speaking. But why did these ribbons become so prominent? So there was a song in the 70s, Tie a Yellow Ribbon, and for prisoners of war, and it really became popular ribbons because prior to that, we weren't tying ribbons on anything, right? This song popularized ribbons. And so there was a woman in the 1990s by the name of Charlotte Haley, and she was a breast cancer survivor and an activist, very grassroots. Her children she had a daughter who had breast cancer, and her mother had breast cancer. So she was distributing peach colored ribbons, and she was attaching them to cards demanding more funding for cancer prevention research. And her message at that time was that the National Cancer Institute's budget was large, but only a small fraction went to prevention. So that's critical. And so she wanted people to be aware of that. And she was writing letters, very small activists. grassroots. But in 1992, Self magazine editors and Evelyn Lauder of Estee Lauder wanted a ribbon symbol for breast cancer awareness. And they reached out to this woman and she declined to participate. She didn't want a commercial campaign. She wanted it door to door. They would sit at the tables, they would be in conversation, and they would make ribbons. Okay. And so, of course, when you have that type of money, what do? You go to legal. And they went to legal, and legal said, just change the color. And they changed the color to pink. So later in October of 1992, Estee Lauder distributed 1.5 million pink ribbons through cosmetic counters nationwide to promote breast cancer awareness. And I have the links in here for the research that this is based on. So, and over the years, and we have to be very cognizant, over the years, we associate, you know, this pink and this breast cancer, and many of us buy products because it's pink and we assume it's supporting breast cancer awareness. But some of the cosmetics, and I don't know what's in Estee Lauder Cosmetics now because I don't use Estee Lauder Cosmetics, but many of the products that we buy are still carcinogenic. Many of the pink ribbons we go on Amazon to buy are made by companies who don't donate anything to breast cancer awareness. So when we buy all of this pink, and pink has, I didn't put the details, pink now is almost $1 billion industry. In October, people buy pink, right? We buy pink. But what would it look like if we got together with a group of women and just had some ribbon and cut the ribbon and made our own ribbons and talked about breast cancer awareness and health awareness? How do we spend our money? And the people that we're spending this money with to become pink, where are they spending the money? Because surely most of it is not ending up in my community. Oh, okay. I'm gonna just stop here for a minute because I just want to get the feel of where we want to go in terms of talking more about cancer and more about survivorship because I've been talking for almost an hour. So I'm just going to stop right now.
I am loving it. I think the information that you shared was very profound. And I'm glad you talked about the funding and where does it go and all that stuff because that's crucial too. So those of you who have questions, you can raise your hand. We can call on you that way, or you can just, it's a small group. So if you just want to unmute and speak, that's fine too. There are some questions in the chat. Somebody wants to know about your diet before and after your diagnosis. Uh, um, Somebody says, what does ACS stand for? I don't. Are you aware of ACS Voices of Black Women? Da, 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 da. I'm in North Carolina also, and I see somebody putting here in North Carolina atrium cancer. Oh, she's answering that question. And Atrium Cancer Institute has a survivorship program. Okay. Oh, and the person met the American Cancer Society. So what about your diet? What about your what changed? You said you were healthy, you were exercising, you were doing all that stuff beforehand. Did anything else change after the fact?
Sugar. I love
Sugar.
sugar. Sugar is not your friend. And I still struggle with sugar. So what I like cakes, I like cookies, I like pie, I like soda. I had kind of gotten away from soda over the years. But under stress, I will drink Coca-Cola. So one of the things, and when you're going through chemo, they tell you to eat anything you can eat. So eat anything that will stay down.
Mhm.
Once I got through that, I reduced my sugar to having dessert once a week. Now I'm still eating a little bit more sugar, but the sugar really had to go. By
Mhm.
and large, I ate mostly organic food prior to that. I still continue to eat organic food. I increased more vegetables, a lot more vegetables, reduce bread, white flour products. But really, the sugar for me was my major culprit. Um, in terms of other things like lavender, just house. Well, let me ask the other questions, and I'm going to talk about some of the other household things that had to go. Do you want, Helen, do you, or will you call on people?
Um,
Do you call on them?
Yeah, well, you all can, like I said, people can just chime in. I was glad to hear you talk about the New Jersey aspect and the environmental perspective
Mhm.
because I grew up in New Jersey, South Jersey, and I see hands. I didn't see them before. Okay, my mother died from breast cancer, as did others in our neighborhood, and I was just always as I got older, I came to wonder, is it just couldn't have been a coincidence, right?
Mhm.
Um, I'm trying to turn on my camera. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but anyway, let me go to some of the questions here and then we can talk about that because I do want us to talk about it. Judy, you had a question. Go right ahead.
Thanks. Reverend, during your talk, you said that once you've had cancer, you're at risk to have more chronic illnesses. Can you speak about why that is? Is it because your immune system has been compromised?
Well, a couple of things. One of it, and when you, especially for breast cancer, and I think it's all cancers, right? When you go through it, everything that you're signing for treatment is acknowledgement that the treatment that they're giving you can also give you cancer. So if you get radiation, you know that you can get cancer from the radiation. If you get chemotherapy, chemotherapy can give a side effect of chemotherapy can be cancer. Your immune system is also suppressed. So the key is that the treatment can cause problems down the road. And that's why it's so critical for survivors to take care of themselves.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Wanda, you're next.
Yeah,
Wanda.
I'm sorry. Pay somebody else 'cause I got echo, got to figure it out.
Okay. Karen, Miss Williams.
Yes. Reverend Vanessa, my question is cancer. It's hitting so many people, whether it's breast cancer or ovarian cancer or whatever have you. When you had cancer, people say, "Oh, I can imagine." You can't even put yourself in somebody else's place because it's like something. Oh, I understand what you're going through. I even have been to walks with my own family. My sister had lung cancer. My question is this, and I want you to be honest. Did it ever make you question God? Why me? And I'm trying to help your people, and you put me here to serve and so on. And I hear you say everybody was praying for you, but I'm wondering in the time frame of may not have hit you exactly because your parents, what you were saying, your history, but does it question you sometime? Oh my God, why me?
Yeah, and I think I said that earlier. I mean, I had a long conversation with God. Me and God have a relationship. And if it was at a different stage in my life, it would have broken me. But it
Okay.
was it was a time I just went back and forth, like why me? What did I do? We have to have a little talk here. They say have a little talk with Jesus. I had a little talk with Jesus. I don't know if it was the talk Jesus wanted to hear, the one they were singing about. And I think as a mature Christian, we have to know that God can handle any of our questions and that God expects us to doubt, right? Jesus had problems on the cross. Jesus said, like, if I could get rid of this, I want to get rid of it. So it's normal to question God. It's normal to question God. Did that answer your question, Karen?
It did. It did. It did. I just had a friend that just had breast cancer and she just passed away from ovarian cancer. And I said, and it doesn't really make me question, it makes me stronger, but I'm like, God, why are you taking all these good people? It's still, I guess there's some understanding for me And I know we're going to have struggles, and as it says, you take cancer, for example, and you go to the closet and you take them and say, Lord, I can't carry this cross. Can you take it for me? And you find out the crosses are bigger. I don't know. How do you go through? How do you get over it? And how, I guess what you can say spiritually or whatever, when you know people are good and you even sitting and talking and praying and helping take care. Um, what scripture do you pull out, or what do you do to make you stronger? Personally, I'm a crier. I'm the worst person that you could ask to come to a hospital to be with you with your walk because my empathy is just so, I'm feeling what you're feeling. And I know that may sound crazy, but I can feel so. What helps strengthen your walk? I heard you saying a lot of prayer, a lot of people praying for you, but
So I want to just go back and talk about the determinants of health. Right. So
yes.
and I think I have it on a slide, but we're just talking, there are determinants of health that say you need good housing, you need a good job, you need a good community. So we have these social determinants of health. But religion is a determinant of health that we often don't talk about. But the interesting thing about religion as a determinant of health, religion could be positive or it could be negative,
Okay.
right? So if your faith tradition or your the teaching says that God is bad and God is punishing you, then you can see cancer as a punishment. I did not see cancer as a punishment. I just needed to understand why I had it. And somewhere through this process, I did understand that I have it because it was now shaping the ministry for where I was going. But when we are involved in, believe whatever you want to believe, but when we are involved in any tradition that is not life affirming, and especially life affirming for women, then we need to rethink the tradition. Because when you're in any crisis, cancer, death, um, any crisis. And so if it then blames it on you, right? You start blaming the victim, then that's problematic. And that's
Okay.
not the God that I serve, because I serve a God of love. I'll give you an example. I had someone come to me. Now I'm like really in the midst of chemo. I'm like all messed up because I had a chemo that they called the Red Devil. That's how bad it was. And I'm just like really going out. And this woman came to me and who was a friend and told me all about my sins and that there had to be some unidentified sin that I had committed that was causing cancer.
Yeah.
And I was really too weak to tell her she was crazy. I was just because it's like, like the red devil takes you out, and I'll tell you a little bit about that type of chemo. But so I just said, okay, God bless you. I hung up. And we probably haven't spoken since because even if it was sin, right? Even if I was drinking, drugging, doing everything I knew to do, sleeping with everybody I know to sleep with, and doing anything you think is wrong, don't kick me when I'm down. At least,
Right.
at least get me healthy, then help me come out, right? You know what I'm saying? Then help me. But don't. Why would a compassionate person kick anybody at their lowest? I was so weak. I took a chemo, and then this is not your question, but we'll go to the next question. I had a chemo called the Red Devil. And so whenever we think of pink, I want people to think of the Red Devil because that's what cancer, the chemo I had was because the cancer was so large. It was the largest, it was the large tumor and one of the strongest chemos they could give you. And they tell you it can give you cancer, on the other end, but it is very strong. But it was so strong that it caused me to have neuropathy. I still have neuropathy years later. But I used to have delusions of food floating in front of me. So this is really bad. And I could never reach the food. I wanted to reach the food. I was reaching the food. My sons are like, what are you? I said, I'm trying to get that cheese. I love cheese. I'm trying to get that cheese. So, I mean, you're going through a really difficult point. And if you don't have anything life affirming to say to someone, you should not say it.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking when you were telling that story. The timing of this woman saying that to you couldn't have been
Thank you.
works.
I'm sorry for taking so much time. This is so interesting.
Not a
Really.
Karen, come on Wednesday. I see you on Wednesday.
Yeah, I think
Karen
this
goes
is
to
such
my
a
Women That Aware
strong.
Bible study.
This is a conversation that I hope that you're sharing this with other groups because your delivery, your content, everything is just so relevant. Thank you, Karen. Wanda, I see you have a question. Are you ready,
Uh,
Wanda?
yes, yes. And it's
Okay.
it's it's more a statement and just some information as well. I've actually had the experience of dealing with cancer, both with my mother, unfortunately, transitioning from cancer when I was young, and it wasn't breast cancer. It was just that the fact that at that point there was so little known about how to deal with cancer that she had less of a chance of surviving back in the time when I was in my 20s. But I did have what I call a play mom who actually lived till she was 90, and she had one of her breasts removed. And I had another good girlfriend that I actually helped doing her care after she had both breasts removed and reconstructed. And she's still going very well in her 70s. And lastly, and I'm saying all this for a reason, I had another good friend who was very healthy, did a lot of things to help other people. And she unfortunately got cancer in her, I believe she was in her 50s, maybe. And unfortunately, she did transition. And all that being said, one of the things that I just wanted to mention is that, that what Reverend Wilson is saying is definitely, very, very pertinent in terms of the care of making sure that we're healthy. A lot of these women were. I know my mother was someone that always, I mean, I grew up in a family where we couldn't eat sugar, we couldn't do this, we couldn't do that. But whether it be environmentally or whatever, just not knowing. I mean, unfortunately, my stepfather smoked, and she had this little tiny filter that she just thought was doing something, and apparently it wasn't because she never smoked, but she got lung cancer. But in terms of the other people that I was close to that had the breast cancer, the thing about it is all except for one survived or is surviving a long time. And in that surviving, it is very, very costly in regards to treatment and then after the fact of survival because there are things that may be impacted in terms of them being able to do. They may have lost, certain things that they had acquired financially, which impact their future. And so, why I'm bringing this up is because of me being involved in Helen Knows and many of the people that are part of when Black women gather, because I have talked about this, that it's very important to understand that there is something that we can do. We can inform our sisters about that doesn't cost a lot, but does provide an opportunity for us to take care of ourselves financially in the event that we do have breast cancer or any other cancer, because the insurances now do have something called living benefits. And it's something that I am very, very passionate about because I have seen how it has helped women. I know two women particular that had breast cancer, and they spent a couple of dollars on. I say a couple of dollars, but it was a few dollars, hundreds of dollars maybe on a premium, but received thousands of dollars of care that made a big difference for them and their family. And obviously, it's something that you can't get once something happens, unless, well, I'll take that back because actually, if you're clear of it down the line, there is still the opportunity, but it's very rare. So when you know young women or women of any age, I just suggest that people really look into being able to have this type of benefit, because it's something that can be a game changer. It's not going to cure you, obviously, after you have it, but it's something that definitely can, prevent you from losing a lot, your family losing a lot. And it also helps with stress, because when financially that even though you're going through something like this and you have the ability to take care of yourself, then you're able to heal better because you're not worrying about how you're taking care of your family, how you're going to live, and what's happening, from that point forward. And so I just always want to just inject that, because a lot of times, we don't think about it, because a lot of times we don't know about it, or sometimes even as we're older, we don't think it makes a difference. But I just tell you, because I've watched it happen with so many different women, it does
Good
make a difference.
information. Drop it in the chats so that people can even like where, if there are certain companies or anything that you can drop in the chat that people can follow up on it because it
Okay.
seems relevant to all illnesses, not just cancer. So yeah, thank you for interjecting that, Wanda.
Thank you. I just
Um,
wanted can I add
Go
one
ahead.
thing along that?
Mhm.
Um, Second career, my first career, I was a human resources executive. And I tell people, the younger you are, the more insurance you should buy. Long-term care, all of the insurance, every benefit that that company offers, get it when you're young. Because first of all, the premium goes up as you get older, even if you're healthy, right? So, long term, the living benefits, all that, get it when you're young. As soon as you start a job, and every year when you get a raise, and I know we need the money to live on, but just take 1 extra percent, 2 extra percent, and then put it into the investments. Because if I didn't have investments, I wouldn't have been able to survive. It's very important. And as women, because our salaries are lower when we go into work, then that means our long-term benefits and our retirement is lower. So we really have to look at other ways to make money, and to have money so that we could live. You know, so it's just a lot. You hear me say I moved out of my house, which is it was okay, right? A house is a house. I'm still here. It's good. It's all good. No more grass for me to cut. But everyone doesn't have that option. I had two grown children, you know. So if you have young children, you
Hold on a
can't
minute,
flow
man.
like that, right? So I just
Hold on.
thank you so much for your comments. It's so important that we invest, and that's why back to me in this pink. If you're buying this pink stuff from Amazon, don't do it. You can take that money. There's somebody who has cancer. They may actually need something to eat because cancer is expensive. Cancer is expensive. At some point, my insurance was canceled by accident, whatever. And they went through the thing, and I wanted to continue my treatment. And thank God for the social work. She said, don't sign that you'll continue. Just wait, fix that insurance. Because I didn't know that one chemo treatment was close to $200,000, right? And I was going every other week. And then, yeah. And then the next day, because of the strength of the chemo, they had to give me another injection to start building me back up so that my joints wouldn't lock up. And then someone put a question about inhibitors. Yeah, I was prescribed something to take for 5 years. Chemo, and the things that suppress the hormone suppressants will actually soften your bones. So I've lost 18, well, I've lost more than that now, but in the first year, so 18% bone loss. So there's a lot of things that we don't know. And bone loss, neuropathy, everything, I'm really glad to be alive, but you would do better if you're armed going in. When I had chemo, they said keep your feet in the ice, right? There's because when you do the Red Devil, somebody in here said they did the Red Devil and they ended up in ER. The Red Devil is it is what it is. That they named that correctly. They say keep your feet in the ice. And I couldn't keep my feet in the ice because the ice was cold. I don't like to be cold. However, if I knew then what I know now, I'd have somebody tie my feet in the ice because now I have neuropathy. And this is 6 years out. Um, so there's so much that we could educate each other, we could talk to each other, small group circles, community circles. Um, I'm a firm believer in the church. If all your church, well, no, I won't say that, but the church should be more than a place where you go and sing and dance. The church and the Black church has always been a place of healing, of education, of community, of empowerment. So I believe that this health care, and we do it at Good Shepherd, that the health care is critical that we get this information to people.
Absolutely. Thank you, Wanda. Charlotte, you have a question, and I want us to talk a little bit about the impact of cancer on Black women and why is it? Do we know why it's higher? Uh, the incidence of breast cancer with Black women. What's driving that? Charlotte, do you have a question?
I do. First of all, Vanessa, it's a privilege to see you in your new life. After all these years, I'm here in bed. I wanted to know, I think everybody on here, my daughter didn't die from breast cancer, but I've had other people in the family, so I definitely understand when you talk about the adverse effects of the treatment that they're giving you. And someone that we both know just recently died because she chose, well, I don't know if it was because of that, but an alternative route instead of just the chemo because she was so afraid of it. But who was your doctor in this area? Your breast surgeon?
My breast surgeon has now moved to Texas.
Oh no.
Yeah, and Dana Holwett, and she was or is she's still excellent. She's just in Texas. Um, I like Morristown Hospital. At that time, they had a really good team. I still go there. I don't live near Morristown, but I still have my team, and hopefully, I won't need a breast surgeon again. But she's moved to Texas, Dana Holwett, and she is excellent.
Okay,
Um,
'cause
How are you
mhm.
I'm
spelling her last name? H-O
Holwitt, I believe, Holwitt, Dana.
H-O-L-W-I-T-T. Okay.
She's she's at I think Methodist Hospital in Texas now.
'cause I've had two of the, what do you call it, Tomases,
Hmm.
and I'm going back for another one. So they're actually watching that. Um, yeah. So wish me
Yeah.
well. Mm,
It's so important. The monitoring is so important.
mm.
And also when you talk about environmental factors, um, and we could use this as a segue. Good seeing you again, Charlotte. Last time I see you, your son was a little boy. How old is he now? He's like,
He's 34, and Aaron and
oh,
Anson.
Anson is 37,
Oh no.
and Aaron is 30.
Wonderful. Amazing.
Yeah. The
Amazing.
years go by quickly, very
Yes, yes,
quickly.
Quickly.
absolutely.
But there's
Thank you,
so many
Miss Charlotte.
reasons.
Okay.
You're
Mhm.
welcome.
There's so
Um,
many reasons I think why it impacts Black women,
mhm.
more so than, and I mean many. There's so many, and I don't want to dare. I don't dare give one reason, and I may go back to the slides, but just like the conversation, and maybe we could do something else at some point with more data. But I want to go back to my story. One of the things that I learned, and again, I talked about adverse childhood experiences, toxic stress, right? So we have more toxic stress than other people. So toxic stress leads to cancer. We tend to be overweight, right? It's culture. I mean, it's cultural. I didn't think I was overweight. I thought I was just thick. I don't know. When I was young, I was skinny. They told me I was too skinny. So I wanted, I want a little sway, but my
Right.
little sway wasn't helping me. You know what I'm saying? So how much of it is cultural in terms of just I was obese. I mean, that's I've lost over close to 50 pounds since I started the cancer journey. Um, and feel better. It's so I wanted when I went through this, I came, this research. I said, okay, God, what's going on here? Um, I started look, so I like sometimes if you see some of the pictures, sometimes my hair is short and natural. because I like short natural hair. And other times I wear wigs. I like wigs. I mean, I like wigs, I like weaves. The hair, if that is artificial hair, it's toxic. And we see it now everywhere, right? So one thing we need to do is just like get rid of the toxic hair. If you're gonna wear a wig, get a really good human hair wig. And I like wigs. I'm going to wear a wig. But then really good human hair wigs are very expensive. So for people who are just wearing wigs because they like wigs, then you would purchase it. But for women who have any kind of hair problems, whether it's through chemo, from cancer, alopecia, anything that's causing you to lose hair, then you need to check your insurance because the insurance should pay for a wig or a hair prosthesis or whatever your physician calls it. But you're entitled to that for insurance. And so I know this is like open enrollment season. Women really need to go through and see what's covered by their insurance. So the hair that we use, I like makeup. I love makeup, right? Um, Most of the makeup I was using was toxic,
Wow.
right? So I had to change my makeup. So the makeup colors I use now are not as vibrant as the other makeup colors, but I had to change makeup. Some of the brands I use now are really off brands. But I had to get things that didn't have ingredients that were toxic. I went through my home and I actually live in a home now where I didn't initially select what it would be. But many of us have carpet in our homes. Unless the carpet is a natural fiber, cotton, wool, most of the carpet that we have, especially if we go into a condo, these already pre-furnished units, they outgas. They are toxic. I don't use microwaves. And it's funny, it's because I have one and I had it for about 3 years, maybe 4 years. I don't know how long I had it, but someone came and they said, I didn't even know you had a microwave. So I don't use microwaves. You have to be careful when you eat out because when you eat out, a lot of that food is microwaved food. I don't eat most fast foods. Well, I didn't eat fast foods before, but like, I mean, my big fast food is I like a frozen Coke from whoever's selling frozen Cokes, but I can't eat fast foods, processed foods. So it was a radical change in the things that were in my house, the fabrics that I wear, a lot of stuff that I just got rid of because a lot of the fabrics, like certain fabrics, I don't even buy. I try to stick with the cottons, the silks. I can't wear wool because I'm allergic to it. So there's so many things that we get, and we get them because we just don't have money, right? You get what you can afford. You go to a thrift store, if you're thrifting, you get what you can afford. But then often you don't even know what the fabric is when you're thrifting. You buy stuff that looks good. Um, a lot of us eat fast food, and a lot of us live in food deserts. So we don't have access to good foods. I've always shopped at Whole Foods. I shopped at it when it was Fresh Fields because I wanted organic food. But literally, you go into Whole Foods, it's like whole paycheck, right? Because it's so expensive. Um, so it's just we need to go back to like co-op, doing food co-ops, um, things where we can empower one another because we have to eat healthy, we have to live healthy. Some of the furniture we have in our house, the furniture is when it's the board and those types of things, they outgas, right? There's so much. Like I went through so many things that just went away. But that makeup, perfumes, and I was talking to a woman, it was wonderful. I was talking to a woman and she was telling me that she had cancer and her mother had cancer and she was at a perfume counter. I said, well, this perfume is full of parabens and blah, 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 blah. She said, yeah, I know. She said, I know, but she said, I need a job. This is where I work. She said, so I'll take my chances. So
Mm, mm.
It's a balance. You live in New Jersey, breathe the air. You don't have to do it. You can live a perfect life. Just breathe in New Jersey, especially North Jersey. Just breathe, right?
South Jersey
Um,
too. We have all those landfills, right?
Salem County. Salem
Right.
So
County
we
is
were
number
getting,
one.
I put in the chats that, I grew up in Gloucester County and, my mother and several others in our little community died from cancer. And, we drank well water, loved it,
Right.
tastes good. And I don't remember anybody in the community going to city town, it wasn't city hall asking, but all of a sudden they put in, city water, but we hadn't asked for that I was aware of. Um,
Mhm.
but I have a friend who lived in Delaware and she told her husband as long as they were living there, she was not getting pregnant. It was not happening. So of course he moved her out of Delaware. So, what's in the ground? And, somebody mentioned that I look thinner than I did some months ago. It's because I spent the summer in Jamaica eating real food, not food that's processed and full of a bunch of, you know, um, artificial. We don't even know what we're eating in the States, honestly. And the stress, right? Stress is huge. I look at my mother. My mother raised five kids by herself. Life stress be and her and probably all of her friends. Stress was they just manage it as a way of life. And stress causes cancer. There's no question in my mind. And then I look at the treatment that my mother had. I think that we are very. Mind you, this is in 19. Mommy dies in 87, so she's probably diagnosed in like 83, 84. Because the goal then, and I'm assuming it still is that if you made 5 years, you can consider yourself cancer free. She didn't make the 5 years, but she was super positive. She had her breast removed. And she just thought, let's do it. Let's get on with life. There was no reconstruction. I can still see, that line where her, cut across her chest where her breast was. And they gave you a prosthesis to put in your bra, but that was it. Now, when women are diagnosed, I think they're doing reconstructive surgery right at that moment. Um, and I guess that too depends on who you are and what kind of coverage you can afford. I don't think that's probably happening for everybody, but look at the millions of dollars that are. I'm glad you mentioned it. I looked it up while you were talking. There's so much money. Every year there's all these uh, cancer, breast cancer awareness, walkathons, marathons. There's so much money is raised, and we still don't have a cure. So I question a whole lot. Do we want a cure? Is there money in there being a cure, or is there money in there being illnesses? So it's really, I have mixed feelings about it. But on the 10th anniversary of me being, a young lady without a mother, I wrote to the two doctors, her GYN, who she adored. She had been going to forever. And just like you, she had gone and had whatever, exams they were doing in the 80s. And the woman did not feel the lump. It was not detected. And my mother found it herself, some months later. But she trusted this doctor. And then her oncologist who did her surgery, I remember him telling her that it was okay that she smoked because she didn't have a smoking related cancer. Of course, this is in the 80s. But I also remember when she went to the breast, what do you call it, the support groups, and realizing that, all of the lymph nodes have been removed from under her arm. And whereas some of the white women were saying that was not that was not the experience for them. And I remember asking the doctor, why was that? And he said, because if she had gotten infection on that side of her body, there would have been nothing there to fight it. But I don't know how you know which lymph nodes to take and which lymph nodes not to take it. We just had a big, we were kids. We were in our 20s, didn't know to ask the right questions that we would ask now. And even my mother, was, but on the 10th anniversary of not having a mother on Mother's Day, I wrote both of her doctors and I told them that I was disappointed in them and that my mother had the best of insurance. She could have went anywhere. She could have had treatment anywhere. As a matter of fact, we tried to get her to go to University of Pennsylvania, but she wanted to go local. She was like, it's cancer. It doesn't matter. And I remember her looking at me towards the end, and she said, "I guess it did matter, huh?" And I said, "Oh no, mommy, it wouldn't have made a difference, but surely it would have." Because when she went to Penn eventually, they assumed that we were related to Judge Leon, who was on the board there. And they didn't ask any questions. She would have gotten top treatment. But the thing I said to those doctors is that they owed my mother the same level of care that they would want for their own mothers. And if you can't do that, then you shouldn't be shouldn't be in the practice of doing medicine. And now we hear a lot about doctors and the difference in the disparity in treatment for Black patients and white patients. And I don't think we called it a spade like we do. You know, we knew it. We probably talked about it in our communities, but now it's very open. So anyway, that's just my experience with and one of my friends who is not on this call today, I wish she was, she did the chemo and I guess the radiation, and then she was expected to do the 5 year thing, I guess that you spoke of. And she said, I'm 82. She said it made her so ill. Her hot flashes were magnified that she could barely function. And she said at 82, she opted. She would rather enjoy the rest of her life because there's no guarantee that once you do this 5 year, whatever it is, post chemo thing, that she was going to survive. But she said her quality of life was nothing. So that's another conversation to have too. But anyway, I'm talking too much. So go ahead.
Yeah, can I go back, me? I want to go back to just the doctors. There's a couple of slides I want to show because there was a question that came up. But people should shop for a doctor the way you shop for shoes. You know what I'm saying? And I say that because a lot of us really have shoes. I'm a shoe person, and I will go up and down the state of New Jersey to get the right shade of shoe to match whatever I'm wearing. I have on a burgundy blouse, I have on burgundy shoes, right? And so it's so important that we shop for doctors, and we haven't been taught to shop for doctors. But if you have the resources, then you shop for a doctor. And I just did not believe what good care I had at Morristown Hospital. Totally different experience, wonderful experience. And you said something very important, Helen. My doctor, my oncologist, he said, I'm telling you the same thing that I would tell my wife. This is what you need to do. I have their cell phone numbers of my doctors. I was in an accident in DC and I immediately called my breast surgeon because I had just had surgery. I was like, what's going to happen? The seatbelt hit my breast. He's like, okay, this is what you need to do. Every doctor's not going to give you their cell phone, but if you don't have a relationship with your doctor where they're treating you like an equal and that you are a part of that partnership, then really think about because this is your life. It is your life. So there is an urgency, and I know it feels time, it's very time consuming, but sometimes just that difference, and Jersey is as big as a minute. This is a tiny little state, but the difference from the healthcare I could get in South Jersey and the healthcare I could get in North Jersey or the healthcare that I could get at Penn, it's all an hour and a half drive away. So some people have big money and they could fly to the Midwest. If I had big money and I could fly to the best hospital, I would do that. I don't have big money like that, but I do have an hour and a half drive money. And I think that's so important that we think about that this is healthcare and we could shop. Helen raised another point, and one of the degrees I'm getting now, and I need to just finish the dissertation. Cancer, like, really taught me so much. I said, I need to understand this. And so the doctorate I'm getting now is in medical humanities, medical and health humanities, and just learning about how still, even today, some curriculum say that Black people have a higher tolerance of pain. Then you talk about, internal bias that people have, where they think that they won't give you enough pain medication because they think all Black people are on drugs, right? So when I was going through cancer, painful, my doctors would give me the pain medication, say get ahead of the pain. I would talk to people who were in other places, other doctors, and they weren't giving them enough pain medication. So they were always in pain. I was not in a lot of pain. I might have been like really high a lot and having hallucinations, but That's really important to be in a support group, as someone said. We have a Sakona Sister Circle. I meet with women, I talk to women. That's really important. But I want to go back to talk about cancer and the relationship with the doctor. And it's getting late. I want to stay on point. So I'm going to share a slide, and I want you to really absorb this. Um, so one of the challenges, from current slide. Um, Continue share. So, no, well, we won't even go through these numbers because, uh, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Did I skipped my slide? Wait a minute, let me hit escape and get to the slide that I want because I don't want to do all of them. I have about 70 slides that I cut this down to because I do this talk all over. But I want to talk about doctors and diagnosis. Oh, here it is. Okay. Now I'll share. Um, this is something that I did not understand until I did some work with the National Cancer Institute. I clearly did not understand cancer because we talk about early detection, and early detection is the best protection. Early detection is the best protection. But there are over 200 types of cancer. Could you imagine that? Over 200. But there are only five evidence-based cancer screening tests. So that's the mammogram, pap test, colonoscopy, low dose computed tomography for lung cancer, and the prostate specific antigen, PSA. So 200 cancers, five evidence-based screenings. All right. So why is this important? It's important because you need to have a really good relationship with your doctor where your doctor will listen to you and follow your chart. Because the symptoms for so many cancers, and I'll stop that, they mimic so many other things. So you may just go in and say, "Oh, I have a stomach ache," and your doctor will say, "Oh, whatever, take an antacid." But you need to chart, and you need that doctor to chart all of your symptoms because something could be cancer, just like pancreatic cancer, right? Pancreatic cancer, they usually catch it too late. That's why most people don't survive. But in the beginning, it may mimic so many other things. My mother died of pancreatic cancer, and they didn't even know she had it when she went in the hospital. She went in for gallstones. And this is, 1986, but it's the same today. For all of those other cancers, you must be responsible for your own health and chart. So you know your body. And I thank God for my oncologist. He said, "You know your body, right? You know your body. You know when something's wrong. You know if this just don't feel right. And if one doctor won't give you the answer, we will take a loan for many things. People have very nice cars, very nice houses, very nice, very nice. Even if you have to borrow money, do a fundraiser, get some money and go to another doctor. This is really important because these doctors, it's all discretionary, right? It's in their judgment when they are going to advance or say that this is something else and you need diagnostic. Some screening is preventative, others is diagnostic. And the coding on the insurance depends on what they will pay for and what they won't pay for. I have so much more information, and I wanted this to be a conversation. So I didn't go through my 70 slides that I reduced the deck for you, but I hope this has been informative.
Extremely.
It has absolutely been informative. And let's do this last question before we let you go. Miss Levine, you have a question?
Oh,
You're muted. Okay. Go ahead.
okay.
We hear you.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. I just wanted to say something about that initial conversation that you have with the doctors where you've been diagnosed and then you go in and speak to an oncologist and a surgeon. There's a whole team you're having a conversation with. My initial conversation was a little testy and unsettling, and it was me that was being testy because I was not agreeing with what they were trying to force me to do. Okay. They immediately start talking. I had stage 3 on one side and early 0, early beginnings on the left side. And so, because of my last name, they gave me one rationale why I should consider bilateral uh, mastectomy because of my last name, and it might be associated with Ashkenazi Jews. I said, well, that last name is from a marriage, so that cancels that out. Then they went another route to try and convince me to consider having a complete mastectomy because they felt, oh, you don't want to really do this to yourself. There may be a possibility for it to come back. I said, well, I would like to have more tests done before we start considering this. And my research that I did showed me that everybody gets paid across the board as opposed to just having the lumpectomy, the lumps removed, have the mastectomy, everybody gets paid. So there's that element as well. Now, sometimes there is a necessity, and that's the best recommendation, but it's not always. And so, and Helen, in your comment, you said that we've always been trained to listen to the doctors because they know best and they know better than we know. But sometimes, like you're saying, Reverend Wilson, uh, your doctor told you that you know your body and we know our bodies and we have to listen to our bodies and we have to also trust ourselves and we have to connect with the spirit. We have to connect with the spirit and move from there. So that's all I wanted to share.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you so
thank
I
you.
much
have
for sharing.
more, but
No, I love that you put in
really
the
time.
chats that you're so focused on other people that you tended not to focus on yourself. That's
Mhm.
important that we do that, especially as Black women.
Mhm.
And ladies, if you have a doctor, no matter the situation, if you have a doctor that doesn't trust the fact that you have legitimate questions or not, that you have questions that you want to ask, if they're not answering them, if they're treating you dismissively, then you need to find another doctor.
Mhm.
And it would be nice if we had a directory of doctors that are good, that, that we've had good experiences with. I can tell you, I just moved to North Carolina. I saw a nurse practitioner the other day. So I'm 65 and they think we don't need pap smears anymore. And I'm like, yeah, I want a pap smear. And she had already taken the speculum out. And she said, oh, you mean you want one today? I said, yes, I want one all the time. It doesn't hurt once a year. So here's what's funny, and I'm going to call her this week because and I know from 50 years or whatever of getting pap smears that when you've had a pap smear because when you urinate, it burns because it just scraped your. I have not had any sensation. So does this woman really think that I think that she did a pap? I don't know, but I'm going to find out tomorrow. So if you have a doctor that you think is not respecting you in any kind of way, not listening to you, you have a responsibility to yourself to move on. But anyway, thank you so much, Miss Cassandra. And Dr. Lisa, we can't close without hearing from you. And Vanessa, I don't, let me do this. Thank you, Miss Cassandra. I'm going to bring Dr. Lisa on board. I know she has something she wants to tell us.
Welcome.
So come
Go
on, sis. What you got for us?
So, I'm not sure if you can see me. Unfortunately, I'm driving.
We can.
So,
We can see you.
okay. Okay, perfect. So, I apologize for getting in late. Yeah, so there's so much, but so much that I want to share. But one of the important parts about it is that, we take cancer for granted, like we assume that that's the disease that we're supposed to get. And cancer prevention and or early detection are very different, right? So one of the important things that I feel like it's missing is that we uh, don't learn enough about diet, lifestyle, prevention, do enough enough work around how not to get cancer. We also don't learn enough about the additional resources around treating cancer, right? So I've had probably 50 cancer patients in 20 years of practice, and I've only lost one because he came in stage 4 and wanted palliative care. Everyone else is still alive, right? So there's so many different ways to support cancer, not just going chemotherapy, radiation, mastectomy. Like, there's Cancer Treatment Centers of America, which is a organization that also supports, that has the oncologist, the radiologist, the anesthesiologist, a naturopath, a nutritionist, like a spiritual counselor, all supporting you in your care. So you're not shifted down one route or another. You have a lot of options. So there's I just wanted to just, interject that there's so many different things that we can do, but one of the more important things is do the work. Do the work to prevent it. Like, find out more and do some more work around the lifestyle, the holistic way of looking at life, the way that we can shift and change our diet and our environment. It's not always genetic, right? 95% of chronic disease is lifestyle and environment. So we kind of take it for granted that we have control, and we have a lot more control than we believe. So I just wanted to share that. Yeah. And FYI, if anybody knows, that I'm a naturopathic doctor, functional medicine practitioner, acupuncturist, but I do support people that have cancer diagnoses as well, because it's important to know what herbs you can take, what drugs will interact, like all the things. That's what we're trained to do. We're trained to support, and we know how to make sure, if you're on chemo, that the supportive care isn't causing any kind of negative effect toward your chemo and your radiation and all of that. So there's just so many options and ways that you can do the work, and you don't have to just choose one way of doing it, and you can do both at the same time. You don't have to say, oh, if I go the natural route, I can't use chemo, and if I go chemo, I can't do natural, right? So yeah, so it's just a lot out there, so much more available.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And
I see
I'm
somebody
riding
putting
with
the
Hello, Charlotte. How you doing?
Hi, how are
I haven't seen
you?
you in a minute.
I know. It's great to see you.
Yay.
I see somebody putting the chats about microwave. Can either of you address that? I have a friend, and her mother, as soon as her mother developed cancer, she got rid of all microwaves in the house. And now they're saying that the air fryer is twice whatever potential harm of a microwave is. Multiply that with an air fryer. Is that so? Have you heard anything on that, Vanessa?
I don't use microwaves, but
Oh, you
I'm
said
not gonna condemn all microwaves. So there's something
I still cook with them, but
oh yeah, I just use like a regular old-fashioned toaster oven or the oven, right? Just and then when you start cooking real food, you can't use a microwave anyway. I guess pe people use a microwave to heat food up, but cook some real food, right? Cook on top of the stove, cook your food. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm not gonna talk about microwave people, but I wanted to go back to one. I want to ask you to donate to Sakona. That's important. I don't want to go away with that. And I did put the a QR code in the chat, and I'm going to show the QR code again. However, I wanted to say something that's really just highlight what Dr. Lisa said. I went to a hospital that had integrative medicine. And so much of what we do at our church, and we're going to have a health literacy conference on October 25th, health literacy, because people don't know what questions to ask. They don't understand what the doctor's saying. They don't understand the difference between a prognosis and a diagnosis. And a lot of people want to self-medicate when they have cancer, and they say, "Well, I'm going to go the natural route, and I'm going to take this herb." Don't do it. Don't stop. Go to somebody who know what they're doing, because the interactions will kill you. So Dr. Lisa, thank you, because you need the guidance with herbs and teas. You can't just automatically somebody say, "Oh, this is good for cancer." I don't do any lavender products because I have a ER. I don't have anything anymore. ER receptive. So you have to just know what you can or cannot do. I love hibiscus tea. I don't drink hibiscus tea anymore. So you really need to make informed decisions with people who have specialized knowledge. And that's really important. Informed decisions with people who have specialized knowledge. And Helen, can I show this QR code?
You
Um,
can, but let me ask you, I'm trying to put in the chat. You said the health literacy concert conference is October what? 18th?
October
What day?
25th at the Church
25.
of the Good Shepherd in Willingboro, New Jersey.
Okay. Church of the
And
Good Shepherd, you said?
yeah, in Willingboro, New Jersey.
Okay, go
And
ahead.
um,
I'm putting it in the chats for you.
okay. And the doctor's going to talk at that time about health literacy and how we use health literacy with two things that a lot of us, cancer and diabetes. So as we walk through it, and then we'll have other workshops about insurance and a whole lot of good stuff. And I'll email you that as well. Okay, Church of the Good Shepherd, that's in Willingboro, New Jersey. And the doctor who will be with us that day is Dr. John C. Daly, who's here in South Jersey, but is one of the few doctors that still will do house visits
Oh,
for
wow.
older adults. So we're excited to have him. And I'm asking you to donate to Sakona. When I go out and talk, I'll go out and talk to anybody. I don't charge people to talk. Um, and of course, you come to church. We're not charging you to come to church either. But the money that we raise then supports the church when we do these health events, and we feed people. We have a good time. And so please support us. Please support the research that Sakona does. And at this point, we really want to expand and go into more churches because the churches will be the hub. Your community organizations will be the hub for healthcare because we understand that nothing is coming out of Washington. It's horrible.
As a matter of fact, less is going to be coming out of Washington. So it's all the more reason for us to really be honing in on where are these services available and who are the doctors that respect us and that we can trust. Somebody asked in the chats, is the conference going to be on, is there going to be an online option for people to attend the conference?
Sometimes we do stream. We're trying to see if we could get someone to stream for us now. So when we stream, we only stream the plenary where we have the doctor, but then because we have workshops, we don't stream from the workshops because we want people to feel free to be in conversation. So we'll stream the plenary, which is generally the doctor.
Okay.
Do you have a .com? Is it a way to just donate online as opposed to the QR code?
Yeah, you could go to Sakona
Mm-hmm.
Inc.org, and I think we have a donate button there.
Yeah, and it's on I think your website is on, if you got the email, that flyer that has her picture on it, if I'm not mistaken, the website is on there as well, isn't it?
It should
Reverend
be.
Wilson?
And if it's, I don't know what's going on with the website. If the donate code is not there, it'll be there by tomorrow morning. I'll
Okay.
reach out, but it should be a donate right on Sakona's website. And for those, yes,
Yeah, the website is on there. It's www. I'll put it in the chats. But if you look on the picture, I guess you can't see it. If you look on the email on the picture that I sent out with this email, you'll see the website for Sakona.
Okay. Okay,
okay.
I'll look at it.
And I'm
All right.
going to show this QR code for those of you. And
We're
so,
not punked enough to
mm,
who are young enough, because some of us like old school, like
I know, but we'll have it right on the website as well. I think it's there. So,
yeah, Tyler just said it was on the
Yeah,
website
I'm
on
putting it
the
in
flyer.
yeah, there it
okay.
is.
All right. And I'm going to show this now.
Okay, you can copy it. You already put it in the chats. Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Okay. So please, be generous in your giving.
And don't forget about when Black women gather, y'all. give on that end as well. But thank you so much, Vanessa. You're right. All of it. So many people are doing worthy work. So many people are out here doing worthy work. So, we have to support what we can. But yep, it's important. Dr. Lisa, I see you put your contact information in the chat. So you all, Dr. Lisa, she's been with us several times. I call on her whenever I can, and she always comes through with good information. But she also holds sessions on her own. So reach out to her if you want to get some good information. And even if you're not in New Jersey, she can still work with you across state lines. So thank you, Dr. Lisa. Thank you, Reverend Wilson. Thank you, ladies, everybody, for remove all the spotlights here. Well, let me ask you before I do that, Vanessa, was there anything else that you just wanted to make sure that we're aware of before we close out? And I want to thank you for, because October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And as a women's organization, I should be in tune with that. And because I have such mixed feelings about it, I'm not. So I thank you for bringing this because it crossed my mind. It was almost instantly as it crossed my mind. And I'm not kidding you, within that same very short time frame, like I'm talking of hours, minutes, I'm not sure, you called me and said, hey, can I do this? And I'm like, absolutely. But in all sincerity, your presentation is powerful. And I was glad to hear you say that you're, sharing it in other platforms. I loved it. I thought, your delivery, your knowledge, not many people, even after they're affected by such a catastrophic event, are going to care or do the work to find out so much more. So thank you for doing the work. And then thank you for thinking it was important enough that not only did you want that information for yourself, but you wanted to make sure that other women, other people have it. So I applaud you for that, my good friend. So thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Thank you. Thank you. I think that's why I'm alive to tell. I talk a lot, so God gave me something to talk about now. So I really have a lot to talk about. God bless
Yeah,
you all. Be well, be healthy, and honor your body. God bless you
absolutely.
all.
Thank
So
you.
I'm going to remove the spotlights and we can do our farewells. I'm going to ask you ladies to stay online for a few moments just so we can chit chat about what's happening. I put in the chats that we are going to Alabama, so I hope you all will join us. But for right now, I just want to say that when Black women gather, if you all
Together,
will unmute, if you all will
amazing,
unmute,
amazing
Amazing things
things
happen.
happen.
Amazing things happen.
Yes, today
yes,
was
and
one.
thank you all for another amazing Sunday. And I look forward to seeing you next week. I have the next 2 weeks lined up. So I look forward to us talking again next week. And, let's support one another. Yeah, I don't think there's a woman on this call who can say that she doesn't know someone who has been affected by breast cancer, whether it's herself or a loved one. And this is the kind of information that we need. I will obviously put this recording online, share it widely. There was good information
Yeah,
that can,
yeah,
and there was inspiration, right? Because we need to be
yeah, yeah.
inspired. If we're going to fight this battle, we need something to fight it with. And I think Reverend Wilson gave us a lot of information to fight with. So for that, I thank you.
Thank you. And can I just
Thank
jump
you.
in?
Thank you.
Thank
I
Thank
you.
did
you.
see
Thank you,
Brenda
Bella.
Esau Howard on, and
I'm
I just
sorry.
Brenda Esau Howard is a cancer activist from New Jersey, and I didn't
Miss
see her.
Howard.
Well, I didn't see anyone, and I just want to just give her a shout out for the work that she does. And I don't know if she wants to say anything, but she is phenomenal. When I had cancer, someone told me to call Brenda. And I had
Mhm.
I didn't know Brenda. I called Brenda, and Brenda walked with me and actually was one of the
Mm,
speakers at my Beau Voyage. And so I just want to give
mm,
her a shout out. She is a phenomenal
mm.
warrior. And if I'm a good speaker, I think. But if you want to have a speaker that's good and actually funnier than me, and I'm pretty funny, get Brenda because Brenda will give you so much information and she will make you laugh. And I didn't talk about my replacement, my breast replacement. That's for another day. But Oh, Brenda is wonderful. So I just want to shout her out because she walked with me and held my hand and let me cry and kick and scream. And then she said, "Get up and fight on, girl."
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome, Brenda.
God bless.
God
Brent,
bless.
okay. Brenda, did you want to say something before we go?
I just want to say one thing that I think is important. Someone had said earlier or made the comment, they was wondering why we get breast cancer more, or it seems as though we get it more. And I just want to encourage everyone. My belief is, as a people, we have this saying, what goes on in my house, stay in my house. We need to share information, family history, but we need to share with each other because someone in our family could have been diagnosed and we didn't know. So we didn't know to start getting checked earlier because it was in our families.
Right.
And so we find out much later, and we have to get out of that. What goes on in my house, stay in my house. And we have to learn to be more open and share with our children and our children's children so that they can have early detection to save their lives. That's it.
Good point.
Thank you. And that's important. That's important. Thank you. I don't know who's got there. I can't even tell who's not muted, and it's okay. But listen, thank you so much, Miss Brenda. I may circle back with you and have you on as a future guest, because if Vanessa says you have good information to share, I know that you do.
God bless. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
Great job,
So
Pastor Vanessa. I love you.
she did wonderful. Yay. Yay, 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 Vanessa.
Yeah.
All right, folks,
Yeah.
I'm out of here. I'm moving this weekend, so I stopped what I was doing to have this call with you because I hate when we miss too many weeks in a row. So we'll be back next week, and I'll be in my new apartment. Yay! Charlotte, I need to talk to
Hey,
you because you had a,
congratulations.
yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you. It was, yeah, that was.
Congratulations.
Anyway, Charlotte, I'm going to call you. I want to talk to you about your current situation. And Dr. Lisa, everybody, Judy, Celeste, Marcella, Miss Wright, you were one of the first folks here. Judy always comes. Miss Jones, you've been quiet today. Thank you so much for coming. Yolanda, I love you. She's here. I'm not sure who Carolyn is, but Carolyn, welcome. Miss Edwards, Josephine Thomas, Miss Williams. I think I got everybody here. Oh, Eloise Young. Hi, thank you all for coming. And I see Denise got on. I don't know what's going on with your phone, Denise. We'll have
Yeah.
to figure that out.
I don't know. Yeah.
You're here,
Yes, I
so
do.
thank you.
Yes, I'm here. You're
All
welcome.
right,
You're welcome.
folks.
You're
So
welcome.
have a good evening, and we'll talk.
Have a good
Have a good
evening.
week.
All right.
Have
Have
a
a
good
good
week.
night,
Take care,
everyone.
Be safe. And those of
everybody.
you who are on the
Bye.
Northeast, there's this storm
Good
coming, so be
night. Good
careful.
night,
All right.
everyone.
I'm driving in it
Good
right now,
night.
so
I
yeah.
Oh, you
know. Be
are?
careful.
Keep
Yes.
your eyes on the
Be
road.
careful, Lisa.
I am, I
Yeah.
promise.
Okay.
All right. Thank
Very
you.
good.
Take
All
care.
Lisa, take
righty. Bye,
care.
Bye.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
See you guys
Bye.
next week. Bye.
Bye.